Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this fourth happy hour talk, Fabulamundi happy hour talk. It's been a full week for Fabulamundi because we know that we've had the happy hour talks, but many other activities going on in which most of you, I understand, are involved. So it's, let's say, again, a full week of Fabulamundi to put Fabulamundi out there online in this strange context that we're living in and cannot carry out face-to-face physical encounters such as a final conference for the project. So this is a possibility for Fabulamundi to leave again a legacy of what it has done with all of you during these past 4 and 7 and 8 years, actually, because it's a very long project that has accumulated enormous experience in these past years. Happy Hour talks are a dialogue with 4 participants, with me, Mercedes Giovinazzo, as the moderator. It is for me an honor to have been asked by Fabulamundi to do this, and it is a privilege to be with you in dialogue for these next 60 minutes. It's usually, and I say usually, it has been these past 3 happy hour talks. It has been 2 representative of from 2 of the partners of the Fabulamundi project, and 2 playwrights. In this specific case, I have with me 4 people that all of them are playwrights, even though 2 of them work within 2 of the partner institutions. So it's going to be, I think, a slightly different conversation, which is also the charm of these conversations within Fabulamundi. Thank you, Alina Nelega, for being here. David Kostak, thank you very much. Yes. Joan Yago, and thank Alexandra Badea. I will do what I have done these past 3 days and which has worked, I have been told. I would like us to focus during this first half hour on your experience as regards Fabulamundi. Fabulamundi, I have always said this these past 3 days, not as a project in the sense of, how many activities have you done, where you have been, what you have organized, no, but what your experience as both a professional in the cultural sector, but in your cases, playwrights, directors, etc., what Fabulamundi has meant for you personally and professionally. So that would be the first part. And then since you are all 4 of you writers, for the second part, I have a series of ideas to start a conversation with you about your playwriting. It's not that I know you well. I would not, dare say something like that. But I have picked a number of ideas from your contributions to Fabulamundi, so I think I would enjoy it enormously if we could go on rather in your playwriting, right? So we have with us Alina Nelega, University of Arts of Târgu Mureș. Târgu Mureș is a higher education institution in Romania, and it is a highly reputed higher education institution with a Faculty of Arts, which has this dual identity, Romanian and Hungarian, because Romania is a country also of minority languages. So that is a specific element in your identity in Târgu Mureș. And in particular, you are the director of an MA in playwriting. But
I'm the tutor. I'm the tutor because we speak of education. So I'm not directing the MA, but I'm tutoring the students.
Okay, okay. So you're tutoring your students, you're accompanying them in their education and in their training. Târgu Mureș has also a studio theater as a laboratory and is a place where your students can actually work hands-on and start off in their profession. And you yourself are a playwright. As I have said, you have been around the world, in particular in the United States, and you have been recently been awarded by UNITER, the Union of Theaters in Romania, which is, again, one of the main institutions in your countries as regards theater. So thank you, Alina, for being with us. And please, as a Romanian partner to Fabulamundi from a higher education center, please, share with us your take on this project.
Well, I would refer to education primarily and to the development of personalities, since our university is a vocational training institution, and you probably know, or you know, probably the people who are here have also attended this kind of universities. We are not exactly gathering information or trying to make people improve their knowledge, but to develop their creativity. From this respect, I think Fabulamundi was very beneficial, not only for the playwrights, not only for the playwriting students, but also for the acting students. Alexandra, for instance, she was in Târgu and she ran a workshop with the actors, trying to develop her text in a presentation. But it is also the case of other playwrights. And from my perspective, I tried to invite writers who were interested and who liked to run workshops, so that they can contribute not only to the dissemination of their work, but also to the training of the students. So this was my personal priority or focus, not necessarily personal, but my focus in Fabulamundi as a partner.
Okay, so thank you for that. I will now give the floor then to Alexandra Badea, because you have mentioned her specifically. Alexandra, you are Romanian born, but you live since the beginning of the year 2000s in France, and you actually write in French, if I understand correctly. You're a playwright, but you're also a director and a filmmaker. And you have a series of plays that you have written, but you also have 2 films that you have directed. You have been in residencies abroad. You have cooperated in Fabulamundi, directing or facilitating workshops, etc. And I understand that you also have had a certain number of projects that have been co-produced in other parts of the world. For instance, in Africa, in Burkina Faso also, or with Burkina Faso partners, and also in Southeast Asia, in Taiwan. So you have, as well as the others involved in Fabulamundi, and specifically this afternoon, quite an important experience already behind you. So please share with us, if you want, and if you accept my invitation, what Fabulamundi has meant for you.
What was important in Fabulamundi, it was the fact that we were able to go in other parts of Europe and in other theaters, and also to see how other teams are working. I'm also a director, so I'm very fond of working with actors, and especially with foreign actors. And for me, it was very important to work with the Romanian actors, because I'm with the Romanian students, because I'm not very present in Romania in the educational field, and the education is very important for me as an artist. In France, I'm doing a lot of workshops, but the system of education in Romania, it's quite different. So it's not very, very easy to organize workshops with foreign artists. So this was one of the most intense experience. I've worked with them for 2 weeks. And also it was interesting to see how other directors are working. And I'm thinking about the experience that I had in Prague. I went 2 times, and I participated to the first reading. And this is so rare for playwrights, because you mentioned some performances, for instance, in Taiwan. I wasn't able to go there, or in other countries where my texts are staged. Sometimes we are inviting to the openings, but we don't know the teams at the beginning of the process. It was also a nice experience with the Italian team at the beginning, even if there were some misunderstanding at the end. But at the beginning, it was interesting because I spent with them 1 week, and we were able also to work with the translation and to understand what are their problems in the production now. So this was for me the most important. It's also important to translate the text, and I think that if I didn't participate to Fabulamundi, my text won't have been translated in Czech, for instance. And this is important also to have the opportunity to go in other countries where we are not involved in the common programs of translations, because all the time we are translated in English or German or Spanish, but there are also other important language, and it's more difficult to attend these cultural fields. So I think this was the most interesting part of the project, the fact that we were involved in the process and that we had the opportunity to see how other theaters are functioning.
Thank you for that. Since you have spoken about languages, I would like to give the floor to Joan Yago. Joan, you are a young playwright. You have been trained at the Institut del Teatre here in Barcelona. We are both in the same city, although
okay.
we're far away. One screen removed. Yeah. And you write, if I understand correctly, both in Catalan and in Spanish. Mostly in Catalan, I see.
Yeah.
But some also in Spanish. So you are bilingual in your writing. And you have recently founded a company which is called La Calórica. That's a nice name, calories. And you also are a recipient of various awards, even though you are so young, because you are one of the youngest I take here in this session this afternoon. So please.
I think David is younger than me. I'm 90% sure that he's younger than I am.
You both look very young to me.
Yeah, I'm not that young anymore. In fact, everybody keeps talking about me about like this young playwright, but I'm 33 now, so I'm not that young. But
oh, come on. You're not that young, but you're young.
Yeah. So my experience in Fabulamundi has been vast in that small amount of time, because I joined the project, I think 2 years ago, and now I was trying to, while I was listening to my colleagues, I was trying to remember all the good things, good activities and good people that I've met through the project. And it's been a lot, actually. I have to confess that when I first attended to that Fabulamundi meeting in Sala Beckett in Barcelona, I was not 100% clear to where I was going. I thought it was something related with translation of my plays, and I thought, okay, let's go. It sounded to me a little bit theoretical and political at the first time, but I said, okay, let's see what this is about. And the experience was great. Fabulamundi gave me the chance to work among with David and Martina, and so other good people from the Bardoletti in Prague in that Camp Q project, that huge immersive project. I'm sure David will talk a lot about it because it was great. It was a super good experience. Then I had the experience to travel to Bucharest to see the stage reading of one of my plays, and that was amazing too, because it's the kind of thing that you don't imagine when you work in a small city with your company, doing your projects in a very local and in a very, I don't know how to say it, in a very protected way. I work in my projects I normally just open my text with my company. And even when they work, I'm not used to see my plays acted by other people. And of course, I'm not used to see my plays in other languages, in other countries, by other crews, and etc. Then I also had the experience to attend to a mock pro in Targu Mureș last January. It was probably one of the last normal things that I do before the world went crazy. And I met Alina there. It was a very good experience to meet all these playwrights, all these, well, not just playwrights, all these people from theater workers that from all over Europe that work with different perspectives, and had that chance to just meet them and I don't know, knowing their ways to think, their ways to understand theater, and their ideas about what theater can be used for. In my experience, this is the main thing that Fabulamundi gave me, that meeting other people from other places that understand, do, and believe in theater in very different ways, and just having the chance to meet like we are doing right now.
But let me ask you one thing, because you said at the beginning, when you went to the first workshop at Sala Beckett, and the first Fabulamundi workshop at Sala Beckett, you went there with a good doses of curiosity, but you thought that it was but you had the impression that it might be very theoretical and political, you said. In what sense did you mean that?
It probably was my fault. I probably didn't read all the information that they emailed me or something, but I don't know. I do theater in a small place with the same people for 10. I've been doing the theater in a small place for 10 years with the same people. So for me, when these people from all over Europe came and they start talking about the fact that maybe our plays or maybe ourselves will be traveling all around Europe with our projects, and we will be meeting people from different countries. For me, it was like, no, it won't work. In fact, in Barcelona, we have all these big problems to get some income from the state or whatever, or from the Catalan government. And for me, that European level thing, it was too big for my mind at that moment. And right now, of course, we are the same people and we are working the same way, but just having the chance to meeting that there are some people in Prague who is also working in a small place, a small crew of people doing things the way they believe they have to be done, but just connecting, it was a very good experience.
Thank you. So it was not that it was theoretical, it's that you thought that it was not going to happen, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
David Kostak, thank you. You are from, you work in Teatre Leti in Prague, which is since 2005 a theater that supports and promotes contemporary drama, and that has launched since 2010 the Center for Contemporary Drama. And we are lucky to have you here, both as, someone who works in the organization within the structure of the theater, but because, as I said at the beginning, you're also a playwright. You are a playwright, and you have been quite active in Fabulamundi, as has been said also by Joan Yago. You contributed to the Camp Q that took place also in partnership, I understand, with the Prague Quadriennial. So that would be nice to hear more about this, in the sense of how also Fabulamundi enabled maybe a theater like yours to have, I don't know if more visibility, but partnerships and collaborations with very big events, for instance, as is the Quadrienal. Please.
Well, I think the starting point was really for this project that we did, the MQ, was to be able to get in touch with other cultures and with other playwrights as well, because the MQ was an immersive project that was basically an simulation of the alien refugee camps, where people could spend 8 hours there while the storylines were going, and we thought that it's crucial for us to have this kind of a experience with the culture clashes as well that inspired us for playwrights working on the script. But also, you know, we are a small independent theater that is funded by multiple grants, and for us, if it wasn't for Fabulamundi, it would be, I think, much more complicated for us to get to done the project big as this. So it was thanks to the European funds that helped us to create this this big collaboration with other artists, and in such a scale we wouldn't be able normally. And the Prague Quadriennale, I think that the being part of Fabulamundi really was important to that as well, because it's a international Quadriennale after all. But every year here for the, well, every 4 years for the Quadriennale, there is set up like the commission that are choosing for offered projects, and we were lucky to get it this edition.
So thank you all for these initial contributions. Claudia Di Giacomo, the other day, I think it was after the second talk, sent us an email to all the participants to thank us, as she has been doing every day. But she said something which stuck in my mind, and she said, I thank the participants to the happy hour talks for this, for enabling what she said, the Fabulamundi stream of consciousness. You are all playwrights, you are all people who write, who use words. Stream of consciousness, I think, you know, everybody knows what it is. I have personally have not been able to finish Ulysses by James Joyce. So, you know, that is something that I have not managed, although I usually like, you know, very thick books, but I wasn't able. But what I'm interested in is this idea of, you know, the flow of thinking, of feelings, of imagining the world as you people write your plays. Joan, I have read in your biography, which is public in the Fabulamundi website, that for you the theater is a meeting place. You say it's a meeting place where for a determined span of time, a group of people meet. The place goes black, there's a play, and then at the end there is an applause. And you say that in that very, you know, constrained space, some magic happens every night, but also sometimes it spurs a night at the theater, seeing a play, it can spur what you also mention as ephemeral political movements. Mm-hmm. So what I would like to know is, you say all this, but at the same time, you say that you're a pessimist who writes comedies. You use irony because I guess it helps you in countering this, I don't know, maybe way of seeing the world from a pessimistic point of view. But still, you're a pessimist that uses irony and that creates magic for people during, you know, a couple of hours every night. What is writing for you, Iago? Joan, sorry, Iago's also a name, sorry, Joan.
No, don't worry. Everybody calls me Iago, don't worry.
I know, it's a sorry.
So it's weird because it depends a lot on the world and the moment you are living right now. Probably writing for me is not the same in that weird situation we are right now than it was when I write that short resume for the Fabulamundi website. Of course, the meeting thing keeps being very important for me. I love cinema and I love TV shows, but I'm a theater writer. And that's something that sometimes I keep thinking about. Why am I a theater writer? Why am I a playwright? Sometimes I have detected that some of the stories that I may be want to explain would work better in a movie because of the structure or the topic or the characters or whatever. But I keep coming back to the meeting thing, to the being in the same place at the same time. For me, it's the most important thing of the theater. And I'm not talking just about doing theater or writing. I'm talking about enjoying theater also, because I like to think that most of all I am a person who loves theater, and the thing that I love the most from theater is attending to the theater, even so more than writing or directing or any other thing. And when I talk about that political movements, that I don't know how did you say it, that I said it, that those
ephemeral political movements.
That's the sentence. Sorry, I didn't remember it. I wrote it 2 or 3 years ago. I think that's something that just happened to me on 2012. I wrote something that I called a documentary comedy, because it was a comedy, of course, but it was also somehow verbatim theater. I didn't call it verbatim theater because I didn't know that there was something called verbatim theater that had a name, but it was just a play that uses a lot of documental material. It was a show called Ledito Bulgaro, and as many of you know, it was about that political scandal that happened in Italy in 2002 when Berlusconi forced to remove from public TV two very famous journalists, let's say in a very simplistic way, left-hand journalists and a comedian. So when we opened that play that was about something that happened in Italy, that play is about freedom of speech, is about the limits of the humor thing, and it was mostly about why is comedy for. I realized that the applause of the audience was not just to the play or just to the actors or just to the set designing. It was also to the ideas. The applause was political because people was living that short political catharsis in a moment in Spain where we, especially maybe not especially, but let's say it from a point of view, in Catalonia, we were living, of course, as you know, a very specific political situation, and we saw our freedom somehow cut down and somehow controlled, and we had that feeling to starting to lose some freedom of say some things. And when we did that show and we look at the faces of the audience when they were applauding, or even when they were rejecting the play, I just realized that it was 100% political. It was so more than a show in the meaning of entertainment. So I don't know, I think that when I write, I try to recreate that moment when you are laughing or you are crying or you are rejecting it or you are applauding, but you are not 100% sure of what is existential, what is political, what are you enjoying, at which level you are enjoying just the performance of the actors, or at what level you are enjoying the ideas there. That's something that I try to play with.
To recreate that moment when you
Hello, Martina.
I have lost you. Good afternoon, Martina. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you very much for that. I will come back to it. But I just saw on the screen Martina Schlegelova join us also from Theater Leti. So welcome. let me go on, and then I'll come back to you afterwards, Martina. Okay, thank you. It has nothing to do directly with what Joan has just shared with us, Alexandra, but on your biography for Fabulamundi, I found something that struck me as you know, the wow moment. You talk about, you have a play, or at least a text, sorry, that is called Extremophile. Okay. Yeah. You will, Martina, you will have to do directly with what Joan has just shared with us, Alexandra. But on your biography for Fabulamundi, I found. Okay, thank you. Right, there was a technical hitch there for a slight moment. In Extremophile, you tackle an issue which is I think relevant in this specific moment. As Joan also said, maybe what you write now is not the same thing as you wrote 2 years ago, because also of your personal development, but also because of the situation that we're living in today. Extremophiles are those organisms that survive in very hostile environments, correct? And I would like you to tell us a little bit about your thoughts, why you wrote this text, what is your thinking on very extreme situations of survival. I know that your work also has links to issues such as modern slavery, the fact that, you know, subjects are indeed, people are indeed today still subject to very dire and difficult situations of life. And in that dichotomy, that slavery, but also that capacity to survive in extreme conditions, I apologize, but humbly would ask you to share with us a little bit about that.
Yes, the topics and the way of writing is moving a lot. So extremophile and pulverized, which treated these slaveries in the work field, are topics now a little bit old for me, because I've written this place maybe 10 years ago or 7 years ago, something like that. Now I'm working on other topics with on the what I'm saying, missing stories of French society, on post-colonial issues and how these post-colonial issues are influencing our life today. So it's very complex to talk about this in such a quiet intervention. But the idea for me, I'm writing theater because I need to react, and I'm very connected to what is happening in the society where I'm living, or in other societies which are quite linked. And sometimes there are stories that are so strong and so violent, and it's like an obsession that continue and continue and continue. And for going out of this obsession and going out of this state of violence or angriness, I have to write something, because I think that the writing field is for me also a space to understand what's happening inside of me, also to understand what's happening outside, and to control what I can't control in real life. Maybe it's the last place where I can control what's happening to us. And also, as Joan said, I'm continuing to write for theater, because I'm also writing novels and cinema screenplays, but I'm continuing to write for the theater, because I think that the theater is much a space where we can heal something. We can, for instance, on these missing stories, or on these characters who weren't quite visible on our stages or screens or stories, the fact to put these stories on a stage, it's more powerful than put it in a novel, because a novel is something very intimacy. The theater has this public strength to also to change imaginary, change the collective imagination that we all share. Extremophile was a play for a cycle on internal crisis, existential crisis. And what was interesting for me, I become this cycle with another play, and in Extremophile is quite at the end of this cycle. And I wanted also to say that maybe the solution is inside us. We can't change what's outside. We can't change the world. We can't change the society. We can't change the politics of our governments, but we can change our attitude towards the others and towards the place where we are living and we were acting. So this was interesting for me. And in fact, Extremophile, there are several stories, and maybe the starting point, it was a meeting with a scientific from Marseille who was working on these topics, and his humanity and his open-minded was a line for my writing process.
As in everything, I can tell you now that you've mentioned the scientist. When as in everything in life, there are things that touch you personally or ring a bell or whatever. When I read about this, I remembered, about my cousin. I have a cousin who does the same work that your scientist. So it was, okay. And we've had conversation. I've had conversations with her about, this issue of these minute organisms that still survive and in these dire circumstances, and are a proof of, how life not only originated, but goes on. So that is why I allowed myself to ask you that question as well, which means that, when you write, I'm Mercedes, but many other people, as Joan was saying, in a given space at a theater one evening, when you hear what you writers tell us, that rings or touches a chord very personal for each one of us as an audience. So that is why I, again, allow myself to ask you that question, Alexandra. But you have touched upon something that is relevant to take on with David. No, you say that you tell stories. You tell stories. David, I understand that you tell stories, that you also tell stories about childhood memories, interpersonal relationships, also about violence, and that maybe also is Joan, but in a different way. You also use irony as a writing tool for your plays. Is there anything that you could share with us about this process of yours of writing stories, about also delving into your childhood memories?
Well, the childhood memories is they are something very personalized, and I have to say that I understand what Alexander was saying, that the writing needs to be something very personal to me. So even when I'm writing about the political issues, let's say, for example, in my play, My Heart Belongs to Jail, which is about the violence that goes on in China and with the political victims. For me, the first thing is to find some personal bondage with the theme, because I at one time I know that I'm exploring a theme that can be new to a lot of the audience, but I believe that to get them touched by the issue and to get them involved, I have to find a momentum that is personal for everyone. Therefore, I started the political play with a story of a son that that looks for a heart of his father that died, and he believes that there is a transplant of his father's heart in the body of someone in the audience. And I think that it's the basic personal moment that everyone can get involved with, and then be more interesting in the political aspects of this of this play that had, but still has a very personal character. Yeah. So I would just to back it up, I would say that for me in the process, the most important thing is to get the feeling and that I have with the play, and then I can put it into more rational construct as a words and plays. But I have to understand the 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 thing that moved me in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I understand that sharing, your attitude towards writing is also sharing about yourselves, your intimacy. So I really appreciate very much your accepting to share this with us. And I would finish with Alina on this second round. I have read that you say that you became a playwright when you started to direct, in this relationship, between that one who directs and the text that is written, and that in particular a new play is when it is shown for the first time has actually two authors, the one who writes, but the one who directs. It's like having, I don't know, a father and a mother, two mothers, two fathers, I don't know, but it's that idea that you convey very clearly of this act of coming into the world with two very strong elements in that genesis. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, well, I'm also a writer. I also write fiction and other things. So writing a play was in the very beginning something, as Joan was saying, a bit theoretical for me. But then as I approached the stage, I realized that one of the main differences between playwriting and, let's say, fiction writing, prose writing, is that literature is an autonomous discourse. That is, it's self-sustainable, whereas playwriting is not. You need other people. You need a director, you need actors, you need a producer or a theater or a company or lots of different things. So while being a writer is a very solitary job, being a playwright, you're not so so lonely. On the other hand, everything is interpreted. So you need a mediator for your text. And to me, with my first plays, it was very frustrating to see how my texts were mediated, following a kind of theater that was a process that I did not believe in, because it was very conventional and very very dusty, very obsolete. Therefore, I tried to, and it took some courage, I admit, to direct my own plays. And then I learned a lot by directing my own plays. I learned a lot about my plays, about myself, about this situation, working with actors. Without having an intermediary, a director, someone who tells the actors what the author wants to say, because the author knows what he or she wants to say, and the actors almost always know what the author wants to say and what the author says. But I also found some directors that had the same kind, shared with me the same perspective and the same kind of sensibility, and the relationship was not that which is common in when you produce a performance, when you produce a show, that there is someone responsible for the show. And of course, it is natural and it's logical that the director is responsible for the show because he or she organizes the world of the show. But that I discovered that the playwright also has to be responsible for the show, because if you speak about a new play, the director has to follow the concept of the play. When you speak about Chekhov or, I don't know, Shakespeare or Ibsen or other playwrights, Ionesco, Beckett, whoever, then the director, I think, allows himself or herself some liberty to interpret and to go away from the primary concept of the play. But when you speak of a contemporary author, of a new play, then you have to follow the concept of the play. So in this respect, I don't know if you can follow me, but this is the logic of my sentence. In this respect, a performance on a new play has to have two authors who share the responsibility of a newborn performance. Okay. I can't hear you. Oops. I'm sorry.
My mistake. I still do not get 100% used to muting and unmuting. Thank you for that. I was saying because I know you illustrate very, very well what is your, I would say, your approach to writing and to directing on stage. And this idea again of, this being that is born when it is put on stage, that it leaves you as writers that you are, and becomes, as has been said before by all of you, part of those who are sharing in the performance is, I don't know, I think it's a privilege that people who do jobs like you do, albeit the very many difficulties that you encounter, as also has been said, is a wonderful gift. We have some 10 minutes left. I do not want to not give the floor to Martina. Martina, I would go back to the beginning of the conversation when we started sharing the speakers, their take, their understanding, the legacy that Fabulamundi has left for them. In your case, it would be interesting for you to tell us this from the perspective of Theater Leti in Prague.
Hello, and sorry for being late. We had some complications in the theater, which I had to solve. But now to Fabulamundi. I think that for us, the most important thing was to have had the possibilities to meet many great playwrights, which I have to say, whom I have to say we would probably have never met without Fabulamundi. So for us, it was really important to have the chance to look, for example, to cultures which are not so very often produced in the Czech Republic, and we don't know that much about them. And we find Alexandra, and we produced one of her plays, which was great. And I think it was really very interesting because the topic was for us, for our context, totally new. And of course, we met Joan, and we did this beautiful Camp Q project with him, and it was very interesting to have him on board with us. And we met many others. So I think for us, as the theater, which is focused purely on contemporary playwriting, the most important thing was that we have had the chance to meet so many great playwrights.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Martina. Alina, may I go back to you for just a couple of minutes? because apart from what you have said regarding, you know, the process of playwriting and of directing, you also in your writings tackle not only stories but political issues. There's one in particular. Of course, my knowledge comes from what I have been given as information and what I've been able to find, but I was struck by the Genovese Effect, where you tell the story of this young woman who, because she is preparing her thesis at the university, finds out that her father was apparently, allegedly, a member of the Securitate in Romania, which for those that know about our recent European history in Eastern Europe, we know what it might mean for a young woman to discover this in the past of her family history. Do you think, sorry, not like, but is it important that playwrights tackle political issues such as this one related to memories, collective and historical of a country, of a nation, whatever we want to call that?
Well, I think not only that it's important, I think you cannot run from this because you live in the present, and there are things that hurt you, and things that impress you, and you want to express yourself, you want to tell your opinion, and you have a voice, and your voice is the voice of an artist, is the voice of a playwright, of a writer. So this is a kind of, I think, moral obligation to yourself and to the others to speak about the things that hurt you. And of course, you speak in different ways. I have always been very preoccupied with the memory and history, and I'm another generation than my younger colleagues. So I have lived a part of that history that I speak about in some of my plays. And I speak in a different way. I speak in a different manner. So I speak about things that happened, and hoping that people would learn something, understand something. And funnily enough, this happens most of the time, really. It's quite rewarding, especially with young audiences, that they are paying attention. Okay.
Thank you. Which makes me go to Alexandra for one last thought exchange. Alina has just said that for her, writing about certain things is a necessity. It's a must. It's a moral obligation. You said earlier, if I'm not mistaken, that for you, writing is also a healing process, in a way. But you also said something that struck me insofar as you said that you're not convinced that what you do can change the world, but you did say that it might change attitudes instead. But by changing attitudes, one can change the world.
Yes, I don't know. It's so big. When I was 20 years old, I began to do theater thinking that I will change the world, that this was I don't know, maybe a naive way of watching to this. Now I don't think about this. In fact, when I'm working, I'm thinking of what is important, what is an emergency and a necessity to share with people. And when I talked about healing, it's also a personal healing, but it's more the healing of a society. Working on topics, as Alina told, are very important for this type of society. I decided in France to build this trilogy on the missing stories of today, which have roots in the recent history of France with the post-colonization and colonization wounds, because there are a lot of people living in this country who are not feeling represented, and I had the opportunity to exchange at the end of the performances with young spectators from high schools who came with their teachers to see this. And the most touching affirmation for me was when they said to me, now the stories of our grandparents are there, are recognized. The state maybe didn't recognize all this, but because us, so artists and writers, are talking about this, it's a type of recognition, and I think it's very, very important. For changing the world, I don't know, but if we are changing one life, it's huge for me. And especially when we are changing our lives and our way of writing, our way of watching to the world and to the others, and just try to understand how we are functioning and how we can improve ourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. David, your last round, talking about stories and this relationship, the relationship with the audience. Is there anything that you would like to say as a last thought in this conversation?
Well, I mean, just like Alexandra said, I don't have big hopes to change everybody's life, everybody's opinion. But if there's one person that leaves the audience touched, and if it provokes something to start think differently, that's the biggest accomplishment I can have. You know, if I always think that I don't need to have all the audience at my side, but if there is one person that finds the play valuable, that's achievement as well.
Thank you. And Martina, is there something that you would like to share with us following these three last interventions before I go on to Joan as the last speaker, as our last speaker?
Maybe I would just like to mention that for me it was very interesting to see the cooperation among playwrights from different cultural contexts, and I think that it would be great if Fabulamundi project could continue somehow, or continue in such cooperation projects, because I think that's something which creates really this European feeling, and I think it's very important at the moment.
Thank you. Iago, I see, Iago, but I won't, perdona, I won't
Don't
get
worry,
this
don't
right.
worry.
I won't get this right. Joan.
Yes.
I've left you for last, not because of anything, but because I want you to tell us something about your You Say Tomato.
Mm-hmm.
You Say Tomato is from the song You Say Tomato and I Say Tomato.
Yeah.
The Gershwins, and it's your relationship, as you say, to cinema and Shall We Dance?
Yeah.
Even though you're a pessimist and I say tomato and you might say tomato, give me a last sentence for this conversation from your comedy point of view.
Well, in fact, now you mentioned You Say Tomato may be labeled as a very pessimistic play, like crazy pessimistic. But it's also a comedy, and it's about love. It's the closest thing to a love comedy that I write and I will probably do ever, because it's about a couple who just discovered that they don't love each other anymore, and they say in those cold terms, "We don't love each other anymore." But I don't know. Life keeps going. We won't be especially happier if we split up. So let's try to keep working on it, and let's try to make it work, even when we know that it's going to be hard, even when we know that it probably won't be perfect at all, never, of course, but let's keep trying it. And while I was listening to my colleagues here about that changing the world thing, of course, I'm not an idealistic person per se, but I don't know, we have to try it. It's like, it's not a naive thing. It's like that we actually have to try it, because if we don't, it will be horrible. So there's something related with that idea of keep playing, even when you know that you are going to lose. We have to keep playing. And I don't know, it's something that somehow moves me to keep doing it, to keep doing it, to keep doing it.
Well, thank you so much, all of you. Alina, David, Joan, Alexandra, and Martina. I will finish off again relating to You Say Tomato. You Say Tomato, the song is Let's Call the Whole Thing Off. Isn't that it? Let's call the whole thing off. Yes. We're not going to call the whole thing off. We're just going to call this conversation off for today. And as you're saying, Joan, and as all of you have said, we'll keep going because it's what we have to do. It's a moral obligation. And raising the awareness, the consciousness of people around us as, to certain issues through your writing is a gift for everyone. Thank you so much again. And I hope that sometime soon enough, we might have the chance to meet personally somewhere. Take care.
Thank you very much.